Good morning, you bright, beautiful lights. Despite the rain, right? We're shining bright in here this morning. Today, I hope that you have spent a week shining brightly and seeing what it's like to be in the divine flow. So just like Niagara Falls that we talked about last Sunday, we're going to continue this idea of onward, forward movement. And today, I'm going to challenge you to think about what it might mean to be a progressive Christian. Yeah, I said the word. Ooh. You could say progressive truth seeker if you like. I am going to share with you again some of the tales from the adventures that I've been on. This one in particular is about the Chautauqua Institute. And how, while I was at Chautauqua, I reclaimed my identity as a progressive Christian. And how that is changing my life day by day. So the Chautauqua Institute is in Chautauqua, New York. It sits on a beautiful lake. And it was born at about the same time as Unity. So in this period where there was this huge leap in consciousness, all kinds of things bubbled to the surface in the late 1800s. Unity being one of those, the Chautauqua Institute being another. There were two men, and they were on vacation at Chautauqua Lake, and they were admiring the beauty around them, and they thought what a great experiment it would be to create an educational, out-of-school, on-vacation kind of assembly. And they called it Chautauqua Lake Sunday School Assembly. Because during that time, one of the things that had bubbled up was this idea of Sunday school. Prior to the late 1800s, there was no such thing as Sunday school. But this had bubbled to the surface. And so they wanted to make sure that Sunday school teachers were spiritually fed and trained. And so the Chautauqua Lake Sunday School Assembly began, which later became known as the Chautauqua Institute. So from August 19th to August 26th, I had the honor to serve as the Unity Minister of the Week, which was really cool to be there and to be surrounded by so many people from different religious beliefs, different cultures, different walks of life, all submerged kind of in this learning environment. And during that time, Chautauqua still, although now it incorporates arts, physical education, philosophy, there's all cooking. I was there for Food and Faith Week. It was the best time to be there. Anybody that saw my posts, I did lots of attending cooking shows while I was there on my off time. But clinging to their spiritual roots, they also offer morning and evening vespers, prayer and meditation services, which was one of my responsibilities. Every morning I led meditation and ended in prayer. They also have interfaith lecturers that come and speak. And what became alive for me is how, although it looks like we are very different, we are actually very much the same. And part of our discussion that week was the idea of progress and of being progressive. As I traveled and people would ask me why I was there and who I was, and as I introduced myself, one of the questions that came up most frequently was Unity. Like, they'd never heard of it. Unity, and then they would say, is that Christian? Guess what? Unequivocally, the answer is yes. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, a Christian is one who professes belief in the teachings of Jesus Christ. Period. One who professes to believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, our co-founders, were big Jesus fans. Today they might be called Jesus freaks. Everything they taught was based on the life and teachings of Jesus. From the healing ministry to the prayer ministry to the 5 principles that we talk about every Sunday. So, big news flash. Unity of Fort Wayne Spiritual Center is part of a Christian religion. And so if you are a member here, guess what? You're a Christian because you're subscribing to the beliefs of unity, which are founded on the teachings and life of Jesus. So now just breathe that in. Notice what is alive for you. I can tell you what's alive for me. I admit I have lots of baggage about this whole Christian business. Right? I have lots of stuff that I've drugged with me through the years about how people have interpreted what that means and how I have taken that on. But I have now made a clear decision to reclaim my identity as a progressive Christian. And I hope that as we go about this morning that you will consider reclaiming your identity as a progressive Christian. So what does that mean to be progressive? What does that mean exactly? Merriam-Webster tells us that progressive is characterized by progress, a forward or onward movement, and making use of or interested in new ideas, findings, or opportunities. Is anyone here this morning because they'd like to have a new idea? Yeah? Anybody here today because they want to expand their perspective of the world? Yeah. Anyone here because they might want to look at ways to make life work better? Sign me up. All right, so you're already ahead of the game. You've already become progressive. So welcome. Being progressive also means more. Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said, "A great democracy must be progressive, or it will soon cease to be great or a democracy." During my week at Chautauqua, I met a man known as the Right Reverend Eugene Taylor Sutton. He said he has the longest name in history. He is the bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Maryland. And Reverend Sutton, one of the things that he said to us is that you could substitute democracy for religion, for church. I have come to understand I can substitute that for Christian. This idea that if a great church is not progressive, it will cease to be great or a church. Like it is no new news that churches are dying. This idea of church as an institution is dying. Some of us are dying because guess what? If you're not moving, if you're not growing, if you're not evolving, then the opposite has to be true. You must be dying. Right? And so it's important for us to think about this idea of being progressive. And as Reverend Sutton continued his talk, he talked about what it means to be progressive. And at the end of his lecture, I was left with the questions, am I really progressive? How far forward am I willing to move? Really? And this beautiful tribe that I'm a part of, this beautiful community, the church that I lead, how willing are we to be progressive? Or are we content to die a little every day? How willing are we to move forward? And then the universe opened up and provided me with lots of opportunities to decide whether I was going to stand still or move forward. The first sign of being progressive Christians, progressive churches favor the individual over the institution. Favor the individual over the institution. Now, it's true that the institution is 4 walls and is a building. And there was a lot of talk among the clergy that were there about how we're all struggling to keep our roofs on, our ceilings fixed, our porches built, how we're trying to maintain this structure. But that's not the only institution that we cling to, this building. There are also other institutions. An institution is also a significant practice, relationship, or organization in a society or culture. A significant practice. Are we more interested in holding on to the way things are done? Are we more interested in everything being exactly as it was 10 years ago, exactly as it was 2 weeks ago, whether that is the order of service, the music, or our church rituals? And if you think this church is not full of rituals, you need to ask a newcomer. We have all kinds of rituals. Every church does. It's not a bad thing. Every church has rituals. But are we more interested in preserving what has been than we are in the individual preferences, needs, and differences of others? So I'm going to take you through an exercise to look at institutions over individuals. I want you to think about the last time you were in a new social environment. So it could be a new job. It could be that you went to somebody's house for dinner. You went to a wedding. I've gone to lots of funerals lately where, I don't necessarily know everybody. So think about a new social situation where you didn't know but maybe 1 or 2 people. First of all, think about how anxious and how much courage it took for you to even go someplace where you didn't know you were going to be, right? And you walk in the door. Can you feel the anxiety already? You walk in the door and you look around and everybody's talking like they've known each other for years. And everybody seems to know where to sit. Everybody seems to know what's going to happen next, except for you and whoever you're with, right? And you're standing there in that awkward moment. Like, what do I do now? Where do we go? Where should we sit? Where's there an open? Do you see anybody? We know, right? And just as you're kind of making a decision about how you're going to navigate over to where you're supposed to be, some stranger that you don't know comes rushing over to you and gives you a big hug. Oh, good. I'm so glad to see you. I'm just so glad you're here. It's so good to see you. Good to see you. How are you feeling right this moment? Welcome to being a first-timer at Unity Fort Wayne Spiritual Center. Or any church, okay? Or any church. She's like, institutions, do we favor the individual over the institution? The second part of being progressive is to realize that we have our own institutions. Right? I would never have thought I had institutions. I don't think about that I have rituals. So I get to Chautauqua, I go to Unity of Chautauqua on Sunday morning to do the service. I walk in, and the space is about 4 rows deep. There is no platform. There is no podium. There's no mic. There's just me and a group of people I don't know sitting in a semicircle around me. All of a sudden I realized all the rituals that I have about Sunday mornings. Like right here, right? What I've learned about being progressive is we have to be willing to adapt. We have to be willing to let go of our institutions to favor the individuals. I had to roll with it. It was really uncomfortable. But after about 5 minutes, I got in the groove and I had a great time interacting with those people, having intimate conversations with them, and speaking to them eye to eye and heart to heart. It was a beautiful experience about letting go of institutions and honoring the individual. Another sign of progressiveness is we favor justice over judgment. Justice over judgment. Now, I don't know about you, but I have about 1 judgment per minute as long as my brain is awake. And I'm going to tell you, I was thrown into an environment I've never quite been in before, where the majority of people that were at Chautauqua are very affluent. Not that there's anything wrong with being affluent. I'm just not used to being the minority. And I had lots of judgments about people of affluence. What I realized pretty quickly was that was out of my own insecurity and my own jealousy. So I've got all these judgments that I'm battling already about rich people, about affluence, and I'm on my way to meditation. And as I'm walking to meditation, this runner comes zipping by me, and then she turns around, and she's still jogging in place, and our eyes meet. And then she runs off. So I walk a little bit farther, and I get to the Hall of Missions, and I pull out the placard that says meditation. And here she comes again around the corner. And this time she stops and she says, "So how long is that meditation?" I said, "Well, it's about 20 minutes. "Okay." She runs on by again. I'm thinking, I've fallen into the twilight zone. So I go about my business. I start meditation. And 2 or 3, 4 minutes into meditation, the runner shows up again. She does not sit inside the circle with everyone else. She chooses a chair outside the circle. Now, everyone else has their eyes closed, so I'm the only one that can see her come in. She's weeping. Meditation ends, and she patiently waits while people come up and say hello to me and ask me how I'm liking the week and all that stuff, and says, "Do you have a few minutes?" Yes, of course I have a few minutes. And so I sat with this woman, and I found out that she was a doctor. She owned one of those $2.5 million homes in Chautauqua. And she was absolutely miserable. She was stressed to the max. She was in a marriage that was cold and abusive, that she felt trapped in. And almost daily, she battled thoughts of suicide. I have chills just talking about it. And all I could do was listen. And to share with her my hope and my strength. In that moment, I was so humbled. I was so humbled. because I understood that I could have judgments all day long about the color of your skin, your socioeconomic status, what you do for a living. There's all kinds of judgments we use to create separation, so we don't have to get too close. But the truth is, we are all one family in humanity. We all suffer. We all have pain. We all have loss. And we are all on the same journey. A journey to find joy, to find peace, to find love. Justice. Justice is defined as just action or right action. It's doing the right thing, no matter what. What kind of world could we create if we could let go of our judgments and instead come into every relationship seeking the right action? What kind of world would we create? The last thing about being progressive, is humility over hubris. Humility, which is not about thinking less of yourself. It is about thinking of yourself less. Over hubris, which is the exact opposite, exaggerated pride. How often do we become completely concerned and consumed by what we need immediately in this moment, versus looking outside of ourselves and putting other people first? Reverend Eugene, who has the long name, Reverend Eugene Taylor Sutton asked us a really important question. He said, what is the main business? What is the business of Christianity? What's the one thing that Christianity is supposed to be that comes first? What is the business of Christianity?
To love one another.
Exactly, Mary. To love one another. We get caught in this thought that our main goal is the church. That our main goal is to put butts in the pew. The main goal is to meet our expenses. The main goal is institutions. Protecting the church. But that's not what Jesus taught us. Jesus taught us that the main business, really the only business of Christianity, is love and compassion for one another. That was the way he showed us. That is the way of progressive Christianity. Being progressive is about learning, trusting, knowing in faith that all the rest of that will take care of itself. Whether the building stands or it falls, the unity principles should live on. Whether the church looks like Sunday mornings at 10:30 or 12 to 6 at Anthony Block. We want there to be love. We want the message of love and compassion to live on. Doesn't matter how we dress it up. It doesn't matter what time we start, where we meet, how we gather. None of that is important to be progressive. To be progressive, the only importance is that we have love and compassion for all sentient beings. And when we can have love and compassion, the differences disappear. I didn't have a single person tell me that week that I was wrong, that I was going to hell, that what I believed wasn't correct. Because in that moment, we were able to see beyond that. We were able to see that all of us, Episcopal, Catholic, Divine Science, Christian Science, UCC, Presbyterian, all of us wanted one thing. We wanted to empower people to the next greatest version of themselves. We wanted to empower people to love one another, period. And on that, we could agree. That is being progressive. As Reverend Sutton said to us, a great church must be progressive, or it will cease to be great or a church. I have to, in order to be great, in order to be my highest, greatest self, if I am not progressive, I will neither be great, nor will I be a truth seeker, nor will I be a Christian. Are we as a collective community, are we as Unity Fort Wayne Spiritual Center prepared to be progressive? And are you, as the individuals who make up this beautiful, vibrant community, are you willing to be progressive? Will you join me moving forward, seeking new ways, new opportunities, new ideas for being the much so needed light in this world? In infinite love and gratitude,